Daniel, and I really want to hear from you and your colleagues on this issue.
Thank you.
You've had the benefit now of hearing lots of opinions and testimony. How are you seeing things?
Thank you, Commissioner and Committee. Daniel Serraldo with Miami Design Preservation League. First, I want to say that we have spent many years trying to figure out a way for the Deauville to get back up and running. It is a major economic impact to the neighborhood. Some of you who may not have been around as long might not remember the Carillon had a similar fate. It was actually, the Deauville's been closed for 5 years. The Carillon was closed for 15 years. But what happened, the city had the FAR of 4.5, and they allowed a new tower, but the Carillon historic building was retained. And right now, my fear is that the way this is structured, as written by the developers, that it's on the path to lose in November, unless there is a course correction. And I remember Neeson, he's a worthy friend and sometimes adversary, talking about the Ocean Terrace. Very similar situation, really run down, developer who was going to come and change the whole neighborhood. And unfortunately, it went on the ballot without the preservation component. The developer kind of went in, not too different from today, saying, it's a vacant lot, we're not saving this. And the voters responded, I believe, accordingly. They did not approve it. What happened a few years after, there was a master plan, and actually the North Beachers got together and looked at the vision for that neighborhood. By the way, the Deauville was on that site, was on that map, and we were part of bringing the CRA there with the hope that when the Deauville got back online, it would be an economic generator. So my concern is that the current proposal is incentivizing the demolition of the Deauville. It was very heartbreaking to hear the developer basically say it's going to be an equinox. I mean, I can see the mailers now, was it Deauville? Will it be an equinox? I'm not designing the mailers, but I'm just thinking out loud what...
And I don't mean to interrupt, I apologize in advance for that, but we do have a court order. I preface my statements by saying there's a court order, and we have been threatened thinly, if not overtly, as commissioners to be held in contempt of court. I don't know where you're going with this, but if you're saying that we need to save the Deauville, that's going to be a tough mountain to climb, so help me understand where you're going.
Okay, I was at that hearing, by the way, and the judge did threaten to hold, the mayor and commission in contempt.
The mayor's fine, just not me. I don't want to be held in contempt of court.
Anyway, I was going to make a joke, but I won't. But anyway, he said that if anything was done to stop what was sort of the processing of a demolition application, he could hold you in contempt. But he did not say, and I'm glad he brought this up because it's important to know, he didn't say the building cannot be saved. Obviously, if this owner, with all of his amazing strengths and power, went to, the building officials said, listen, we've seen MDPL's report. We think we actually could, just like the Carillon or 3,000 other historic buildings that we have, there is a way to repair it. I believe that that would be fine. The city's not under a court order to demolish a building. That was regarding the Marijuello lawsuit, and the city attorneys could explain that. But I just want to dispel the idea that it must be knocked down. And then the other thing I want to say, because we haven't met with the team yet, we're going to meet with them in the afternoon, but there are many other buildings like the Addition, which I think is such a great example. It was in Melvin Grossman, and they had the lot to the north, and they built a big tower, which you can't even really see from the site. And I know that, I think that we actually could work together, and we're not trying to do any joint ventures, but I understand some of the perspective. But here's my idea. What if we work together and say, okay, maybe we would agree to 4.5 FAR if the site has a contributing structure. So then we just shift slightly the incentive and we say, yes, by the way, the Deauville, the main building is on the very northern edge. There's a ton of land where they could build beautiful towers by Frank Gehry, but just don't forget the essence of who we are. And let's spend the next week rolling up our sleeves to come up with something that will pass. Because I think we all would like it to pass, and the CRA money would be major. We just want to make sure that special thing that makes North Beach what it is, the Deauville, the resort, that it is retained in some way. We could discuss the details with the owner or the potential owner, but we know you're not the preservation board, we get it, so we don't expect you're going to talk a lot about that. But we think that that's going to sweeten the deal to sell it to the voters, because it is the biggest FAR increase, I think, since Save Miami Beach. And we worked together to approve Town Center, and, people might not like it, but I think there's been a lot of investment. So let's continue that, but not forget where we came from.
Daniel, just so I understand, you said a lot of, important things, but your ideal situation, but for the demolition by neglect would be to save the Deauville. But are you sort of proposing, I know you have a meeting later with Mr. Ross, saving a portion of it or trying to keep it intact? I'm not sure.
Well, that's up for discussion. We haven't seen, a preservation analysis, so I don't want to just say publicly that. But
I
right
just don't
now
want you
we're
to
at
go down a
vacant
road
lot.
that
What?
I just don't want you and get people's hopes up to go down a road that we can't go. There is a court order out there, and I don't want to mess with this judge. If you follow what he's done with Surfside and his comments on the record on this matter, I think you have to do what sort of the law of the possible, right? So I don't know where your ultimate goal is, but I just want to make sure you don't spend endless resources to try to accomplish something that we can't, because we do have a court order for demolition.
Okay. So that's a great point. We right now, from the preservation perspective, the only incentive we would ever have to give more FAR is with a preservation component, right? So if that court order, if everything doesn't change and in September it implodes, we're not here because we're not interested. You don't give FAR to vacant sites in Miami Beach without a real public benefit. And maybe you can convince the voters that this is it, but I have some experience with the voters. They like history, and they want to see an effort, I think, and that's what we'd like to work with them together, not adversarially. But I would love you to have the city attorney eventually, maybe in a letter, let you know if the owner came to the building official, would the building official be open to some sort of preservation? My understanding is yes, but that's just, I'm not a lawyer. So I hope that's helpful, but
I'll leave it to you to have that meeting with Mr. Ross and your colleagues to talk about historic preservation. We haven't really spoken to Mr. Ross. We only met yesterday in the afternoon about what we would like to see on the public benefit side. So I think there's still a lot clearly to be hashed out over the next coming months. And I hope we all come together and support this, and that this passes overwhelming with 70-some% and not 51%, because that'll leave a bad taste in voters' minds.
Me too. We both like to win, so let's make it happen.
And I think there's a big win for everybody here.
Yeah.
I just want us to be reasonable, and that's why I was asking you. Obviously, take that court order very seriously, because we have to go for what's possible, and then try to negotiate from that perspective.
Yeah, let me just add to that. So, I don't like when judges threaten me either, and I take it very seriously. So the property, that building has been determined to not be historic, okay? And you need to...
What?
The entire building, there are historical features. So I would encourage you in your conversations with Mr. Ross to talk about incorporating historical features, like maybe something related to a porte cochere or something like that would be iconic. But it sounds to me like you want to save the building. That's your goal. And
that's been the city's goal all along, unless the policy
Well,
changed.
I think there's a court order.
Right, but that doesn't mean there with the new owner.
I'm just saying
right.
that, so if you're saying that you're going to try to kill the project unless that building is saved, I don't think that's going to be in the best interest of our community, and I'll put that on the record.
Right, but you just also said with the Sussmans, you don't want to encourage demolition by neglect. And
I don't.
The biggest benefactor today, as it's written, are the Marijuelos. And I'll put that on the record any day, and I'll share that with everybody, because when this is built, by the way, no one here is, I think, yet going to be in office in 28, and we're going to be the ones sharing the history, and we don't forget. So I'm going to put that out there as well. And by the way, it is historic, so please don't say it's not. That's misinformation. It is a contributing structure in the North Beach Local Historic District. So please don't get that wrong.
And as I said before, there are a few people that want to punish the current owners for their behavior. But we need to be thinking of the bigger picture, and that is not to punish the entire community, to punish one. So keep that in mind.
Okay, thanks.